Hey there, it's Jen Schow, and I'm excited to be showing you my first process video with the new Pick Me Up collection from Paige Evans. And there's lots of gorgeous, rich colors in this paper line. And if you haven't seen it already, I did an unboxing video on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. I'll try to remember to link it below. But this is one of my favorite papers in the collection, and I just love the bright colors of the flowers, and I love that it's against the dark blue background. What I decided to do today was to fussy cut a bunch of these flowers, and what I want to do is put them so that they poke out from underneath this circle. So I've cut a circle on my silhouette out of this patterned paper, which means that I can still use all of this awesome pattern here, which is nice. But then I get the impact of this paper on the front. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut a bunch of these flowers out. This is the photo I'm using today, and it's going to be kind of like a note to self layout, where I'm going to talk about how I just sometimes let my hair do its own thing. And so I haven't decided yet, but I love black and white photos because they allow you to use whatever papers you want, and especially because this is a new collection and there's so much stuff I want to use, I decided to pick this photo for this layout. So I'll go ahead and put you on fast forward and you can watch my process. So I'm going to get right to work on fussy cutting out those florals, and I am leaving a little tiny bit of that dark navy color around as a border because I like the pop it has against the bright colors of the flowers. So you can see I'm just using some micro tip scissors. Those ones are from Close to My Heart, and cutting out the florals, and I will cut out nearly half this page. So I'm just seeing how they're going to look underneath that circle. And now I'm going to adhere the circle to a piece of white cardstock. You can see I've cut out all of those florals there. And what I'm going to do now is just kind of arrange them underneath that circle. And what I decided to do was to just kind of layer them up so they're not overlapping the edges, because I know that I want to stitch around the circle when I'm done. And I just put a tiny bit of adhesive onto that background paper so that I could get that stitched without having to run into a lot of adhesive, because I don't want it to dull my needle or anything, and I don't change my needle very often, so I want it to last as long as possible. So you can see I'm just kind of fitting in the pieces here and there, and I'm looking a lot at the colors because I want there to be a good balance of color. I don't want too much of the same color right next to each other. So that's kind of what I'm fiddling with and playing with here. And in a second here I will skip ahead, because what I plan to do after I kind of get these fitted in there, what I'm going to do is lift each one out and adhere it down with just a little bit of glue. And so you can see here I've got it nearly filled in, but I'm going to go back and fill it in even more, overlapping some more of the pieces just so that it has a fuller look. But I really love the way that this kind of makes a floral wreath, but it's like bursting from the inside of this circle. And I really like that look, especially because after I stitch it, I want to kind of fluff up these layers. I want to pull up the edges of the leaves and kind of rough up the edge of the circle, because I love that extra texture and dimension. And so that takes this patterned paper, this flat patterned paper, from being, you know, just a flat piece of paper to a dimensional embellishment. And I really like the idea of that, and it helps you to stretch things further. I didn't use very many embellishments, and I don't think I used any die cuts. And so I think this is a good way for you to get a lot out of your pattern paper if you don't want to purchase an entire collection. So here you can see I have my photo there, and I'm trying to fit it so that my photo can get overlapped by some of the flowers, but I don't want it to, my face is close to the side of the photo, so I don't want it to obscure my face and look strange. And I'm thinking that this is going to work out pretty well. So you can see it's a little bit more full than it was when I had it last time. I filled it in with a few more flowers overlapping. And now I am just taking my sewing machine, and I don't know why I didn't skip through this part, but I am threading it with some white thread. And I'm just going to sew 3 circles around the outside edge. And I just keep my sewing machine on my desk so I can easily pull it over. That helps me to use it more often. I'm going to run out of my bobbin here in a second, and so I'm gonna rethread that, and here is a little close-up of how the stitching looks. I think this would look fun with a contrasting color, but I really just, white's mostly what I keep in my sewing machine because I use it the most. It always works, almost always. I like to have a contrast of black too, but that wouldn't have worked here, and I didn't want to dig for any other colors, but I think the white looks nice. So here, now that I've got it stitched down, I'm kind of fluffing up the edges, like I mentioned, of the flowers and the leaves. Sorry for my fuzzy hair there, but I just needed to get down and see if I was doing everything right and if everything was glued in properly. And so I only put a little bit of adhesive on these flowers, so as I kind of pull up the leaves and stuff, I'm just seeing if I need to add more adhesive. So now I'm going to try placing my photo and kind of deciding where it's going to go in relation to these florals. And there is a little space to the left of my face that I know I'm going to eventually want to cover up, but at the moment I'm leaving it empty. I'm using these little letter thickers because I want to have kind of a long title, and I'm going to have my title be Natural Hair Don't Even Care. And you'll see I'm putting it on wax paper. I like to do that because then I can move the title around on the page before I commit to it. And especially with things like this, I like that because I like the letters to nestle in, especially you can see how the word natural and the hair don't kind of go in between those leaves and flowers, how they go to the edges of them, and I really like the way that looks. And so I often use the wax paper because I want to just see how I can make my title look like it really fits within the page. And people make fun of me, I'm sure, but for always mentioning things nestling in, but that's like my go-to. That's my style, is to make things feel like they belong together. So I took this other pattern paper, and it's pattern paper number 8, I believe, from the collection, and I cut out some of the speech bubbles. I thought they were super cute, and one of them said selfie, and I don't get to use things that say selfie very often. And so what I decided to do was cut them out, and now I have a little foam pad, and I'm using an embossing stylus to make them a little bit dimensional. So I'm just rubbing the stylus in the middle of the paper. Sorry, I didn't realize I was out of frame right there. And it's going to give it a little bit of lift, and it gives it kind of a cool texture, and anything that I can do to bring a little bit more texture is a good thing. So again, in this instance, I am using paper but creating a sort of embellishment out of it. So I'm searching through the die cuts now to see if there's something that's going to go next to my face, and there's really not. I thought about that little tab because it fits in the space, but it looks weird, like it's coming out of this like it should be my ear or something. I don't know. It looked really weird. At this point, I'm considering putting my title on that little ticket piece that's part of the journaling spots. And so I have that pulled out, but eventually I end up deciding not to do that. So I'm just flipping through the die cuts. When you get a new kit, when you have new supplies to play with, it's hard not to want to use everything. And I like to look through things. And so I'm looking through all of these die cuts thinking, I want to use them all, but of course I can't. It's already busy enough with the florals, and I'm going to make it even more busy now. So I did find a die cut that says Love It. That's the same as the speech bubbles that I cut out of the patterned paper. And so I decided to use that. I thought about using some of the buttons from the haberdashery little collection of stickers or whatever, but decide against that. And now I'm going to just go ahead and glue down my photo and work around it. So still playing around with where I want these pieces to go. So while I'm deciding that, I'm going to go ahead and work on my title. Often when I can't decide exactly what I want to do, I'll just move on to something else. I guess I'm not going to work on my title first. So what I'm going to do is make these look like they are kind of a puffy embellishment. Since I used that stylus to round them, and I didn't have the one that was a die cut puffed up like I had the other one, so I hurried and did that. And now I'm just putting a piece of fun foam on the back, and I'll adhere that to the layout here in just a second. The fun foam I get from Walmart, and it has adhesive on one side, and the other side you just adhere to your page. You can also get them at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, any kind of craft store. I'll link to where you can buy it online as well below. And I'll link to all of the products that I can find that you can purchase online as well in the video description. So I'm using a ruler, which I don't often do, but I kind of wanted my title to be straight, so I'm just using it to help me line up my letters. And I added the word even in there. And to create the comma and the apostrophe, I just cut them off of a hashtag because there aren't any in the letter stickers. So now I'm just kind of deciding where I want the speech bubbles to go. I decided to overlap the top two. I like the way that looks. And now that I've got those on there, that little ticket tab thingy isn't going to quite work. So I pull out my rub-ons and I'm trying to decide what to do here. And I think maybe these little stitch marks, they have all different colors in the kit, might work next to my face to just kind of fill in that space. And so I decided when I decided to do that, I wanted to include them on other places on the layout. So I went ahead and did my journaling so that I could figure out where those other X's might go. So at this point, I'm thinking I need another pop of yellow at the bottom because I've got one with the smiley face at the top, and I need one in each kind of little embellishment cluster that I'm doing. And so I'm thinking of that, using that yes speech bubble, but eventually I'll change to something else. It's going to take me a while to figure out what to do there. And actually, I searched through a whole lot of my stash to find something that will work there before deciding on something that I already had out. So that happens to me quite often. I was thinking about putting another speech bubble there at the bottom because there's all that space underneath the journaling, but I felt like it didn't work because I like things in odd numbers. So right now there are 3. I didn't want to add one more because that's 4, and 5 seemed like it was too squishy. And so I'm just adding some of these little circle pieces from the Puffy stickers, and I like the way that kind of fills in a little bit of the space, and it mimics the shape of the speech bubble, but it's a little bit different. So now I'm thinking that one of these little tabs would be fun to add my date on, and I'll just kind of tuck it under the circle just like I have with the flowers. So I stamp January 17, and then I'm just going to tuck it in down there at the bottom. And I chose the blue one because there's not a lot of blue represented on the layout, and I wanted well, there is kind of, but it feels very pink. And so I wanted to kind of balance the title as well. So now I'm putting down some more of those little crosses, like they're the little stitches. And I'm using, there's 4 different colors on the rub-on sheet. So there's like a navy, a teal, a pink, and a red. So I'm just choosing a few different colors and doing 3 different colors in each spot. So one is to the left of my face, one up by the title, and then one down below the journaling. So those are kind of my 3 little embellishment spots. And they don't stand out a ton because the flowers is really what takes your eye on this layout, and then the photo and the title. And that's kind of what I want to stand out anyway. So these are just like little extras that I probably, if this is too embellished for you, you could easily stop sooner than I did with the embellishments. But this was one of those more is more pages, and I do those sometimes, and sometimes I do minimalist pages. I just like to switch things up. So at this point, I'm thinking I'd like to add some more stuff, and I was thinking about adding some flowers in the Puffy stickers, but it didn't quite fit. I know I need something besides just the stitch marks to the left of my face. I'm feeling like I need something dimensional, and so I'm just thinking about that as I flip through things. Right now I'm still looking for something yellow to go below the journaling, and I just am having a really hard time finding it. So I'm flipping through all the little bits and pieces of the collection. I'm looking through the die cuts. I'm looking through the little 2x2 paper pads. I feel like what I need right there are some words. And so sometimes I get very picky. And at this very moment, I was being very picky. So I thought maybe I would pull this out from the Turn the Page collection. There was a little yellow arrow, but it didn't quite work. And then after searching and searching, I decided to use this rub-on that's in this collection, and it just says Stay Golden, and that was the good pop of yellow that I needed, I think, right there. And now I'm feeling, now that I have that pop of yellow at the top and at that side, I need another pop of yellow in the other cluster next to my face. So again, I'm looking through my stuff to see if there's anything I might add to the side because I'm looking for something that's a different shape than what I was looking for before. And what I decide to do, I like the way that speech bubble looks kind of, but I don't like the way it overlaps my face. And so I decide in the end, I'm still looking through here, but that I'm going to punch a heart to stick there. And so you'll see that I'm just going to punch it from one of the yellow patterned pieces of paper. If you had the 6x6 paper pad or wanted to punch from the 2x2 pads, that would have been awesome. I just punched it from a full 12x12 sheet, which sometimes is painful, right? To cut into a 12x12 sheet. But that particular paper, I knew that I was going to cut into anyway and not use as a full 12x12 sheet, and so I felt like it was okay to do that. So this is a super old heart punch that I have, and I'm just going to punch into this paper. This is the lemon paper. I can't remember what number that is, but what I'm going to do is that same technique that I did with the speech bubbles, and I'm going to use my little foam mat there and my embossing tool, dry embossing tool, to kind of puff that up, and then I'm going to put some of this foam underneath it and glue it down. So I like the way that brings that pop of yellow over there. I think it looks pretty good. And then I'm thinking that maybe I need to add some more stitch marks because I covered 2 of them up. So I'm going to just add some more down below the other one. And I decided that yellow was too light. That pattern paper that I cut it from, or that I punched it from, was an ombre colored paper. So there's lighter at the top and then brighter at the bottom. And I decided I needed the brighter color. So here I'm just roughing up the edges of the circle to add a little bit of texture. And I like doing that with my fingernail. You do have to be careful so that you don't like get a paper cut under your nail, which I've done before. But I like my finger. I think it's the best tool to use for that, actually. So now I am just looking through to see if there's anything else I want to add. It feels like there's some, since every other space is filled in, it feels like there's some empty space up at the top next to those speech bubbles. And so I'm thinking about what I might be able to fit in there. And I feel like if you contain the busyness to a shape like this circle, you can put a lot of stuff without it being super obnoxious. And so what I'm doing here is I decided that I wanted to add in some more hearts because the only place the heart factors in is that little place to the left of my face. And actually there are hearts on the emoji face as well. But I decided to punch out these little light blue colored hearts because there's light blue in that speech bubble that says selfie at the bottom, but it's not found anywhere else on the layout. And so I wanted to bring in a little bit more light blue. And so I punched those little tiny hearts. That's a Stampin' Up punch that I have. And I am just going to scatter them into the different areas of embellishment. I thought about maybe outlining these blue hearts so they stood out a little more, but I didn't like the way that looked. And so I'm just going to leave them as they are, but I decide to pop them up. So I have these teeny tiny foam squares, and they're from Cool Tack. And they fit the back of those hearts perfectly. So I'm just putting one little tiny square on the back of each one of those. And they stand up a little bit taller than that foam does behind the speech bubbles. And I like the variance in height there. And so I put 2 at the top, 1 to the right, and then 1 to the left. And now what I'm going to do as a finishing touch is add some Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine. And that's going to fill in all those little spaces that I feel like are still there. I love the way that Gold Color Shine dries on photos, so I did let a little bit go onto my photo up at the top. And now I'm just going to glue down that little date that I had stamped on the tab. And I'm thinking that I'm just about done. I feel like there needs to be something in that space next to the word even. And so I'm playing around deciding what I might be able to find. I like the way the stars look, the tiny, tiny little bitty puffy stars. And so I scatter them around, 1 in each of those embellishment areas, and then put another little circle with a heart on it next to this title. So here you can see some close-up photos. I hope that you've enjoyed this, that you'll try using some of your papers as embellishments, and check out this collection. It is gorgeous. It has lots of fun patterns and easy to use motifs, lots of different colors for a variety of projects. Check out the Pink Paislee blog. I'll leave a link in the video description, and I'll also link to all available products in the video description as well. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.